The president of Burundi has warned that the escalating conflict in the neighbouring Democratic Republic of Congo could lead to a regional war. M23 rebels are trying to advance southwards, days after capturing the key eastern city of Goma. People there are still coming to terms with the latest fighting between the Congolese government troops and the M23 militia, which is backed by Rwanda. We have this report by DW's Sanem Saidi.
In Goma, people are still suffering in the wake of the recent fighting between the M23 rebels and the Congolese army. Ghislaine Kasanje and her family were shot by a soldier in their own home.
A soldier demanded 100,000 Congolese francs from us. We told him we had nothing. All we had in the house was water because we thought he was thirsty. Then he loaded the gun. He aimed between my husband's legs and the bullet went through into the room where I had hidden with the children. The bullet hit me on my upper body, around my ribs.
Ghislaine, who already suffered from high blood pressure, has been left facing serious health consequences. At the moment, just standing up and walking is hard. She and her unemployed husband were already finding it hard to take care of their family. They say the situation is as bad as it was the last time the conflict between M23 and the government was raging.
Despite her condition, my wife visits the neighbors and some acquaintances to get us something to eat. Last Sunday, when things in the town were getting hotter again due to the fighting, in order to find these peas, she exchanged them for coals, which we had here in our small supply.
The sounds of gunfire and battle have left their children traumatized. Ava, the youngest in the family, is scared of even the smallest noises she hears outside. Her parents fear long-term mental health consequences.
She's disturbed. We fear a brain disorder, but she has a fever and we believe that it is all due to fear.
In Goma, life is gradually returning to normal, with traffic back on the streets of the city. Markets have also reopened, with traders starting to use routes again, long closed off due to the fighting.
And for more on the humanitarian crisis there, we can talk to Maina Kingori. He's Acting Country Director for Care in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Good to have you with us. So the United Nations says that only this year, and it's only 1 month now, that the number of people displaced surged to more than 400,000. What can you tell us about the situation of those trying to escape the conflict?
Thank you. The situation in Goma in North Kivu surged by 400,000 people. These are people who are displaced from the towns of Minoba, Sake. And as the conflict came closer to Goma, there were multiple displacements. Initially, we had internally displaced people living on the outskirts of Goma, fleeing into Goma town itself. And once the conflict continued to rage, they got into the schools. Schools were being used as homes. They got into churches. That's where they were sheltering. And once Goma fell, there was now a decision that all IDP camps be closed and IDP internally displaced people need to go back to their homes. The impact of the conflict has really been severe on the residents of Goma, especially those living on the margins of the city where the fighting has been most intense. Children, especially young children, have had really to persevere a lot. There's been the explosions. I mean, I can identify with that small girl there. The explosions have been huge, and sometimes these explosions going on through the night. Yes, the calm has returned across most of Goma, but for many people, especially for children, the impacts of this war will be lifelong.
Right. We'll talk about the mental impact in a moment, because there's also, of course, the very immediate problem of that people are running out of food, out of clean water, medical supplies. How do you address these shortages?
there's been a shortage of water. The major water supplies in Goma have been cut off. Electricity has been cut off. There's no internet in Goma as we speak. And we're only getting patchy telephone network. Let me just also note that quite a number of agencies had their warehouses ransacked, medical supplies, food supplies that was stored in those warehouses was ransacked. Right now, the airport into Goma is still closed. We're not able to get supplies from Kinshasa or from other regional capitals into the city and into Goma and the outlying areas. We're hoping that a decision can be quickly made for the reopening of that airport, because it is a humanitarian hotline for the residents of Goma.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to definitely get back also, because you mentioned earlier the mental stress, the impact, especially with children. And I'm just wondering, when you describe the situation, also the restrictions bringing supplies to everybody in need there, given those challenges, do aid organizations such as CARE actually have time to deal with such a thing as mental or emotional stress?
We actually have to prioritize it. And I want to give you an example. For our staff that are the first line responders, they are also having to deal with the trauma that they experienced during these crises. We are having to reach out to make sure that our staff, first and foremost, can deal with the trauma of that conflict before they can even reach out to some to communities affected by the war. Psychosocial support is really critical. Psychosocial support is really critical, especially for women and girls who are really on the front lines, of being affected by this conflict.
Maina Kingori, Acting Country Director for CARE in Congo, thank you so very much for sharing your insights with us and bringing us up to date. Thank you.
And earlier I spoke to Shelley Thakral. She's Communications Officer at the World Food Programme. And following the M23 rebels' recent capture of Goma, she described the current problems in that city.
A week into what's just intensified in such a short amount of time, Goma last week in terms of what they were facing, and now we're hearing the same as the advancement continues towards Bukavu. Like your report said, some respite, some calm, but people are just, they need reassurance. They are trying to leave. I'm talking about Goma here and the surrounding areas. They're going out to find the food. Many shops are still closed. A lot was looted. We are also concerned that even as the supply chain routes reopen, food prices will skyrocket. And these are people who, probably haven't had any income for some time just because of that insecurity of being able to go out. Many people perhaps are daily laborers. They rely very much on, cash by day in terms of the work that they can do. So from the World Food Programme's point of view, we're looking at Goma, the surrounding areas, camps that were already very heavy populated. And now families who will be living in fear and terrorized by what might be advancing towards Bukavu as well, the second largest city in the eastern province. Over the course of probably the last several weeks, when families have been picking up what little they have, they've been crossing the border. Our colleagues in Rwanda, the World Food Programme there, have been able to provide also hot meals. So, we work very closely with all of our offices wherever there is displacement, whether it is international borders that people are crossing. We'll make sure that, we can help find shelter. We'll work with other agencies. But the most immediate problem that immediate problem that we face, and the point that you raise, is the fact that there has been this ongoing displacement for years. And this is just concentrating people in places now which are highly insecure. And we don't know whether we can get that food and that shelter to people. We need to wait for them to be, for us also to have some lull and some space to do our work. We need security to be able to sort of resume what operations are absolutely critical, and that's getting food to people, children who are malnourished. women who are expecting babies, who are pregnant, who also need nourishment and medicines. You've already heard how overwhelmed some of the hospitals are. We know that in this eastern province, it already suffers from Ebola, measles, Mpox, lack of basic access to health services. So you imagine you layer each problem one on top of each other every day. This just becomes, unimaginable to people.
Thank you very much. Shelley Thakral there from the World Food Programme.